How can startups use AI and what does it mean for everyone else, right? There's AI just about everywhere you turn and look right now. So, that is one of the things that we're going to be talking about today on Everyday AI. My name is Jordan Wilson. I'm your host. And as a reminder, this is for you. This show, Everyday AI, it is where we can learn about AI together and how we can leverage it in our daily lives. So, if you're joining us on the live stream, welcome. If you're joining us on the podcast, make sure to check the show notes. Come join us on the live stream as well. Also, make sure to check out our daily newsletter, youreverydayai.com. So, before we talk about the world of startups and how startups can even adapt to innovation in the AI industry, because it is going at a breakneck pace, let's first take a look at what's going on in the world of AI news. There's a lot. All right. So, first and foremost, a chip maker has brought in a big investment. So, the AI chip firm Tenstorrent has raised $100 million from Hyundai and Samsung. We obviously talked about NVIDIA earlier in this week and talked about how important these GPU chips are, not just for startups and the AI industry, but even for how we're now functioning in our day-to-day using all these AI technologies. So something to keep an eye on there. Next, Google's AI search is getting smarter. So Google has their new SGE feature, which is essentially generative search. It's getting rid of the old traditional Google and bringing in kind of this next phase of AI-powered search from Google. You do have to have that enabled in your search lab. So we'll share about that in the newsletter. But if you do have it enabled, you're going to start to see a lot more multimedia results now coming in. Not just plain text. You're going to start to see a lot. All right. Last but not least, Meta's Llama 2 may have a new open source competitor. All right. So we've talked about this on the show as well. Meta has released Llama 2, which is essentially an open source alternative for something like GPT or ChatGPT. Meta made huge news when they announced that this was open source and Llama 2 is out. But Alibaba has just rolled out their version of open source AI model. So a lot going on in the open source large language model kind of race, right? So I'm excited. I'm excited for today's conversation. We already have a ton of comments coming in, a lot of people joining the show. So with that, let's start talking. Let's start talking startups and how they can adapt to AI innovation. So I'm going to welcome in my guest for the day, who has a just great background in working with startups for a very long time. Xiaochen Zhang is the president of FinTech for Good. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for your invitation and looking forward to the conversation.
Oh, yes. Oh, geez. It's everywhere you look now, I feel so many startups are raising money, and startups you didn't think would be using AI, they're using AI. But before we get into that, just tell everyone a little bit about your background working with startups in FinTech for Good, because you're involved in a lot of ways. But just tell people how you're working with startups right now.
Sure. And FinTech for Good is a venture building studio where we help basically identify the most promising emerging technology-based startups, and then bring the right ecosystem around them and help them to grow to be successful. And of course, that's all the startup that we focus on need to solve the right type of problem. That's because the for good part is really as important as the tech part, where we hope that our startups are able to bring positive change to the world, including financial inclusion, poverty reduction or economic growth, gender equality, and climate change or environmental protection. Those are the type of problems that we hope that our startups can just help to solve.
Yeah. And you must look at a ridiculous amount of startups. A lot of people probably looking to FinTech for Good for support, mentorship, investment, right? So first of all, how many startups are you looking at, and have you seen any change, over the last year or so, kind of with this new, not just the generative AI boom, I would say, but it also seems like there's a lot more money now on the VC side going to startups that are, trying to incorporate AI into their product, their service or their offering. So, yeah, just talk about just the number of startups you're seeing, and if you're seeing any change or trends with how they're using AI.
Sure. And FinTech for Good started, in 2017, where that we had a lot of focus on blockchain, and just recently we included artificial intelligence as another core focus. Before, on a weekly basis. Or even on a monthly basis, and we may just look at one or two AI startup, but the rest are really blockchain startup. But just from ChatGPT was introduced, and then the startup community entrepreneurs are really responding to the market the fattest. Faster than capital, faster than corporate, faster than government. So then, immediate many of the entrepreneurs started to really build very exciting AI-based or general AI-based innovations, which are pretty exciting. And then on a weekly basis, now that we are looking at least 10 to 15 AI-based startups for now. Yeah.
And I'll ask this because, there's a story a couple weeks ago that kind of made headlines. It was a group of, former, a group of former people that worked at companies like Meta, big names, and they created kind of a generative AI company. And before they even had a product, they had raised more than $100 million. Number one, is that a good thing? And do you see that as a problem, at least for startup founders, maybe that have a great product, a great service, a great offering, and maybe they're just not they're not using AI really in any marketable way, at least. So do you see a problem with maybe an over-reliance on AI, at least when it comes to fundraising?
Yeah, so when the answer to whether it is a good thing or bad thing, you have to say that the good thing for whom, and for the markets in general. If you look at the startup community, that's a good thing, because in the sense that AI is still emerging, and this is really the beginning of leveraging general AI for solving challenging or impactful problem. And by having startups who are successful in fundraising, and you are able to send the right or send the message to the market, to the innovator, to the ecosystem that AI innovation can help you to be successful. That message itself is very important for the sustainability or the growth of the AI innovation market. And then if you just talk about the specific startup who received that large amount of investment, I don't think that's a good thing in the long term. And many times you see that those startups may, if they still don't have a product, and there that's you may not have the right team who can manage a larger enterprise, and you may not just have the right incentive to even to dive deep and then to just get hands dirty to do the building, because now you have all the capital available to hire the engineers and others. Then the founders really just before you becoming a founder, then you're becoming a large enterprise operator, a manager, and then that is really not the skill set of a typical entrepreneur for a startup.
Yeah. Do you think just obviously you've been working and investing in startups for kind of long before this this generative AI boom, but do you think it's now more difficult. Even for startup founders that maybe they're pre-seed, maybe they haven't raised a lot of money yet. So in my head, part of me thinks, oh, there's all these great user-friendly generative AI tools that you can, code faster, you can get a better business plan, all these other things. But then on the other side, I think it might be hard if they're not integrating AI into their end offering. It might be harder for fundraising. So I guess what advice might you have for a startup founder? And they're just confused, right? They're saying, oh, should I go all in using and incorporating AI, or should I just stick, should I stick on a path that is not reliant on that, whether it's for fundraising or for operating?
Yeah, and there's not a strategy which fit for all, and it's really you have to look at the nature of your solution and also the market fitness. And one example is that if you're working on a solid product which has market fit now, and you should just not trying to ride with the hype and changing your strategy, changing your resources. Because by the end of the day, the number one challenge for startup is to stay focused. And because your product is still early stage and you can go to many direction, because you're a startup, you don't have many resources. And because you're a startup, that's you have a lot of noise, distraction. So the you know number one factor for a startup to fail is that you lost the focus. And if you lost focus, and then you will fail. No matter the hype now is AI or another emerging technology. If you lose focus and focus around things, put your resource into wrong strategy, and then you will fail. And of course, that's for other startups who from beginning they try to build an AI startup, and that's natural that this is a good time for them, and where that's to double down of their investment. And if they, for example, are still a part-time startup founder, and it could be a good time that to try to accelerate their prototyping or product or strategy, so to make sure that when this is at an early stage, and when the market is still hot, and especially it's easy for them to find co-founder, it's easier for them to find the technical resources, and also it's easier for them to tap into the bigger ecosystem who want to be part of the AI cake. And I think that's a good time for them to double down their investment. Yeah.
Yeah. Earlier, the name was escaping my mind. I think it's Mistral AI. That was the startup with the co-founders who worked in big tech. So even when we talk about situations like that, are you seeing too many of these new startups pop up? Saying, "Hey, we're going to offer all these generative AI tools," because they're seeing just the sheer amounts of money and investment coming in. Do you see that as a problem, or do you think that there's still going to be use cases for so many different people, companies, enterprise to be using these different tools that these startups are promising to create? Essentially, is it going to get oversaturated because of all of the money right now going into kind of AI related companies?
Yeah, and again, that's from beginning we talk about entrepreneurs are the most sensitive to market trend, and then they are fattest, and then they are also the most innovative in that sense. When there's a trend, emerging, and then there's market message that they received, naturally that they are going to just responding to that. That happened during the dot-com era. That's happened during the blockchain, and that's also happened for AI. That happened for metaverse. So anytime when there's a very strong message from the investor, from the ecosystem, that this is a hot area where that's more investment is going to go there, and you will see a lot of startup, a lot of innovators will go into that. And I never think that we have too many innovators, but it doesn't mean that all of them will be successful, because um, there are data in the market as common sense. 99% of the startup will fail. So yeah, you want to be that 1%. You don't want to be that 99%. So then it will not, the market will not have a problem, in the sense that a lot more join, to join this big trend of AI innovation. But I think for you, if you are a startup, if you are an entrepreneur who think about it, and you have to really just answer a few basic questions. Number one is that do I solve a right problem? Number two, does this problem have market fitness? Number three, and do I have customers who are willing to pay, no matter it's 2B, 2C, 2G. There's somebody who want to pay for my service, for my solution. Number four, do I have a pricing model and which really supporting that customer to leveraging my service? If you have all answers, go for it.
Wow, that was just a master class there from Xiaochen. Just if you were struggling to keep up with his points there, don't worry. We're going to recap it all in the newsletter that we're going to send out after this. But we have a great question here from Maybrit in the comments. So as a reminder, if you are listening, make sure to get your question in. About how your startup or startups in general can use AI. So Maybrit's question here is, what are your thoughts on startups that don't have an AI focus yet? We kind of touched on this, but instead, should they work on a tech product and just focus on the AI element later? Or do they not even need to have their eyes on an AI element?
Yeah, my answer is you're right, and you don't need to. So if you work on a tech product now, and which means that you already answered those four questions. There was a problem, there was market fitness, there was a customer, you have a good pricing model, and then no matter it's AI, metaverse, or another emerging technology, that for you becoming noise, right?
Mhm.
And of course, that's when you continue to improve your product, and naturally you may see AI can improve your product, meaning that a lot of time that AI can reduce the cost for you to just launch a product. And AI can help you to just reduce cost and time of your go-to-market strategy.
Mm.
And AI can help you also to potentially create a new type of product, solving adjacent problem to the core problem that you're trying to solve, and then that also have a new market which you can tap into. So those are the additional problems, additional opportunities. But again, if you're a startup, have a product already ready, and only because that there is a hype in AI that you started to think about whether I should expand and all that becoming distraction rather than an opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, that's such an interesting way to reframe the thought and the conversation around, should my startup use AI or not? And you mentioned go to market, which I should put this out there to our viewers and our listeners as well. So you also served as the global head of innovation and go to market with Amazon Web Services, right? Given that experience too, I guess what are some takeaways from your time there that you can share with a startup founder right now, and maybe they're struggling to say, okay, which direction should I take my startup? With that go to market background, how would you advise them?
Yeah, and the number one message is really around customer obsession. Your customers are smarter than you, and where your customer will guide you, and where to invest, what to invest, and also what product they need. And so to try to understand better of your customer, and to just bring the right product to them, and also understand their behavior, and also understand, the core challenge for them to adopt your products. And I think those are really key. That, everything what you're, working on, in terms of go to market is around your customer. So you need to have a, proposition, what value you can bring to your customer, and communicate that value proposition through your market, through your marketing, and to your customers. And number three is, always bring your customer into your product design and product implementation roadmap, where that's have them to give you feedback in terms of whether you have the good feature, your feature really just solve their problem, how easy to use. Does it require one click, two click, multiple click, and your customer want one click or multiple click? And so whatever your customer need or want, that's where you need to just invest more of your time, your resources to improve.
Wow. One thing you mentioned there, which when you said it, I'm jotting myself down notes as well, right? So you said being obsessed with the customers, and not just whether they're spending their money or not, but you said bringing them in to the process. It just it reminded me, I've used personally probably 700 pieces of software, and I remember early on there's this company called Lemlist, and I was chatting with their founder. It was 2 a.m. local time, and he was asking me about the question, and now they're obviously unicorn status. But we have another great question here from Ben. So Ben is asking, what about startups using AI as a tool to help them find new market segments, design products, images, videos, developing pitch decks, right? So, your ChatGPT type products, but then, you also have products that can help, people code better, Copilot, all of those tools. So yeah, what's your take on Ben's question here?
Yeah, that's this question related to the last question you asked. Do we have too many, right? And so interestingly, for all the area that Ben asked, there are basically a lot of startups and who are working on the similar problem. And then there, that's, I think, your differentiation strategy becoming very important. If say my AI tool can help you to write a social media post, your AI tool can also do the same. Then now the customer have a choice to make, right? And why do I use this one, not that one?
Mm-hmm.
And then so similar thing, to for example, design products and leveraging video and image to just create new insights and all that. You basically have tons of tools and are trying to solve the similar problem. So then if you are a customer, you have a choice. Then if you are a startup founder, and in addition to the differentiation strategy that you have, and the second piece of that is how to bring that differentiation strategy message to your customer. Make sure your customer understand that for this tool, this is different from the other tools who are trying to solve the same problem you have, and then why this is better, and then create the right channel, and then to bring that message to your customers, and also again bring your customer testimonies, and using your customers to educate other customers, and in that way that's your customers finally understand that even they have more tools in the future, then they still have loyalty to yours and then stay with you.
Wow. If you're listening and you're in startups, you just got a masterclass. Wow. I can't thank you enough. I guess before we wrap up, do you have any last advice or just last thoughts on where AI is trending in the startup industry that people can really just take and use and feel more confident in building their startup?
Yeah, definitely. Number one thing I think is the responsible development and use of AI, and sadly that's a lot of innovators care about AI, and a lot of large enterprise, even government care about AI. But AI is a double sword, where that you have the benefit of improved productivity, but you may also create a bias. You may create the impact to gender inclusion. You create talent and hallucination, and you may also have a lot of other ethical related issues. And then regulators around the world trying to just create new laws, regulations, for AI regulation. So if from the beginning that you didn't pay attention to that piece, then you just think that I can build a product I can offer to the market, and then no matter how your AI model is trained, what data you used, and you cannot verify that you didn't do harm to the society, to and then later you will enter into trouble, no matter it's the fines or litigation, and or your customer will leave you. So those are the things that you need to really from beginning. And then when you are innovating, trying to innovate in a responsible way, get yourself informed, make sure that the ethical concerns are being addressed, and that I think is very important. And the second piece, go back to your customer and trying to really think on behalf of your customer. At this point, AI can do a lot for the customer, and what are the biggest problems that they face, and connect that with your strengths, your resources. That why I'm at the best position to solve that problem for my customer. That itself is the number two most important question. The third one is that AI cannot solve all problems, and you have to look into AI, IoT, metaverse, blockchain, other emerging technology, and also other already mainstream the technology, to combine all technology together. And then by the end of the day is technology is not an end goal, AI is not an end goal, and your problem, the customer problem, is the end goal. And bring the right technology mix together to solve problem for your customer. I think that will be essential.
Wow. After each one of these responses, I just say wow, and I'm jotting down notes. So you shared so much today that can really help startups not just understand AI, but how they can actually innovate and grow with it. So Xiaochen, thank you again so much for joining the Everyday AI Show. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for holding us, and thank you for everyone listening to us.
All right. And just as a reminder, there was a lot in this conversation. Don't worry, we're going to recap it all. So make sure that you check out the newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go to youreverydayai.com. Sign up for that daily newsletter. We put it out about 2 or 3 hours after the podcast. So we're going to be sharing a lot about what you heard today, but also we're going to be sharing a little bit, hopefully, about the Chicago AI conference that Xiaochen's working on as well. We're a Chicago-based show. I know we have a lot of Chicago listeners, so make sure to check that out as well. All right, so that's it. We hope that you can join us. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about our favorite ChatGPT plugins. So hope to see you back tomorrow and every day with Everyday AI. Thanks.
Thank you.